It's all about money. With your host, CPA and forensic accountant, Sam Rosenfarb.
You're watching It's All About Money, and nobody knows more about money than accountants. Hi, I'm Sam Rosenfarb. I'm a forensic accountant. I've been an accountant for over 30 years, and I can tell you from experience that people are irrationally motivated by money. I've been involved in numerous disputes about money, brothers and sisters fighting about how to split up the money that was left to them by their parents, husbands and wives fighting the War of the Roses after living together for many years. I've been involved in partnership disputes, business disputes with partners who've known each other for 10, 20, 30 years, who virtually kill each other over money. I've seen people steal from the government, cheat on their taxes, steal from their employers, steal from their children's trusts. I've seen people's greed control their behavior. This show is all about educating you, teaching you about how you can spend, invest, control, and learn about money and its place in your life. Today's show is about how to choose a divorce lawyer, what you should know about getting married and getting divorced. Stay tuned if you want to learn about creative divorce planning. With me is one of New Jersey's most prominent divorce lawyers. Richard Diamond is a partner in the Milburn law firm of Diamond & Diamond. He's a certified divorce mediator who has lectured extensively on the subject of divorce and matrimony. Richard has testified as an expert witness on divorce law. He has written numerous articles on prenuptial agreements, grandparent visitation, and other related topics. Also with me is Stephen Decoveney, who's been divorced twice before. Stephen's a businessman in New York, now lives in New Jersey. Steve, is it easier the second time around?
Not at all.
It's not.
You've
been divorced twice.
Twice, yes.
Yeah, you're not married again, are you?
No, I'm done.
How long were you married the first time?
First time I was married 3 years.
3 years?
Yes.
And was that a messy divorce? Did it end in a messy divorce?
Oh, yes. And in fact, we still have problems right now.
How long has that been? You've been
12, 13 years already.
12, 13 years, and you're still battling with your ex-wife?
We just had a good one on Saturday, too, just the day before. Yeah.
Oh, well, what could you still be fighting about after 13 years?
The issues that come up with the children, mostly. That's when it's with bar mitzvahs, braces, appointments, going down to Florida, vacations, and there's always a problem.
Custody issues.
Yes.
Soon, it's like the old joke. The couple were in their 90s. They went to get divorced, and the judge said, "Well, why are you getting divorced? Been married for 70 years." Said, "Well, we waited for the kids to die."
Right.
You're still fighting over children. Your children must be teenagers by now, right?
Exactly. They're both. I have a 15 and a 13-year-old, 2 boys.
And your second marriage, do you have any children there?
No children, no.
So that was simple, right?
That was an easy one, yeah.
It was?
Yeah. Thank God.
So you think you'll get married again?
I think you can stick a fork in me. I'm done.
You're done?
Yeah, I'm done.
You're not going to get married anymore?
I'm down the road. No, I'm done.
Richard, you've represented people in all kinds of divorces. Are there any friendly divorces?
Sure.
Yeah?
A lot of people really want to resolve their matters in a fashion that's fair, but the problem is they don't know what's fair. And a lot of times, if you can give them advice and explain to them the cost of a divorce, you may find that they're willing to resolve it peacefully. Obviously, if you've got people who have had problems with the children, they have problems with the financial affairs, and they don't want to resolve it peacefully, or the lawyers are fighting, it's going to be a war. So you try to, from the inception, get them under control and tell them what's reasonable.
Steve, do you think it's because you and your wife, your ex-wife of 13 years, don't want to resolve the problems? Is that why you're still fighting? What do you think?
I just think it's an issue from day one, from when the divorce starts, and even from the marriage with the in-laws and what goes on with the kids, and he said, she said, and it just becomes different issues that they fester as time does go by. And the anger does not go away.
If you had any idea what divorce was like, do you think you would have got married the first time around?
No, I'd still be running. No, I'd be gone, no.
How should people choose a divorce lawyer? Are all lawyers virtually the same? Does it make a difference?
Sure, there's a big difference.
Big difference.
Big difference.
Some people get the dream team, and some people get other than the dream team.
Well,
I was going to say Marshall Clark, but I don't want to say that.
Sometimes the dream team doesn't really accomplish the end that you're really looking to accomplish also in a divorce. What you really need to do is to have several consultations. Best advice, meet with several lawyers. Find out if they're specialists. Find out what percentage of their practice is matrimonial. If their practice is limited to matrimonial work, do they appear before the judges in that particular county? pick their brains
Is it
and make
good
sure.
to have a lawyer who appears before a specific judge in a specific county?
Sure. That
Familiarity is
the
good.
The lawyer needs to know the judge he's going to be appearing before. If he's going to be down there, he should be giving you advice, or she should be giving you advice as to what to expect. In your consultation, you should have an idea as to where you should end up with at the end of the divorce. Alimony, child support, distribution of assets. What's going to happen?
Just based on a half-hour consultation?
The consultation should take as long as necessary, an hour, hour and a half. And if the lawyer can't give you that type of advice, then I think you're making a mistake.
So our viewers should spend time, an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, with 2, 3, 4 different divorce lawyers
Absolutely.
to get an impression and an opinion about the outcome. That sounds like excellent advice.
It's a good point, excuse me, that he brought up about a lawyer knowing the judges. I remember the first time we had to go to court, the lawyer called me on the phone and said, "Do you know where the courthouse is?" I went and
The lawyer asked
I had to
you.
call a gas station to find out where it was.
Well, he
That's
didn't
when
know
I
how to
figured I
get to
was
the
in trouble.
courthouse.
No, he didn't know where it was.
Well, you know you're in trouble then, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, did her lawyer know how to get to the courthouse?
He knew, yes.
Yeah.
He knew where it was. He
And
knew.
did you see a difference between the quality of her lawyer and the quality of your lawyer?
Exactly. When I went for my first consultation and I left that consultation, I had no idea what to expect. I left more confused than when I got there.
Did you seek the advice of 3 or 4 different lawyers before you
No,
chose
I did
one?
not. I walked in and I felt pretty, it was a good feeling to see a sort of a caring face after going through, because my wife had left me and I didn't see my kids for 2 weeks, and I went and hired, met this lawyer, and he sort of sounded like he'd help me. And I said, okay, you're hired.
What kind of questions should these people ask at this initial consultation?
I think the first question is, do you practice in that particular county? Do you know the particular judge? Here's my situation. I'm a W-2 employee. I make X amount of dollars. My wife is in this situation. We have 2 children. I want an idea. What should my responsibilities be? What am I looking at? Am I paying alimony? How long? If the lawyer says to you, don't worry, I'll take care of you, walk out of his office. He's wasting your
Watch
time.
out.
He's wasting your time and he's wasting your money. If you say to the lawyer, my wife shouldn't get a share of the assets, and that lawyer says, don't worry, we're going to fight for you, walk out of that lawyer's office. He's wasting your time, he's wasting your money.
Should he also tell you what approximately what it should cost in terms of fees at that first meeting?
What the lawyer should do is tell you what a judge is going to do with your particular case. You should walk out of a consultation with a sense as to where you're going to be. And if a lawyer says, bottom line, these classes of assets are going to be split 50-50, and you say, I don't care, I'm going to fight tooth and nail, well, you've answered your own question as to how expensive it's going to get.
So the fight is what brings up the fee.
Correct.
It's not the lawyers themselves, typically.
Oh, this one hurts. There are lawyers also who can fuel the fires. There are lawyers who can really create problems.
Can you discover that in these initial consultations, these
Sure.
initial interviews?
If you're meeting with somebody, say my spouse is going to be retained by Joe Schmo, is going to be representing her, what's your relationship with that particular lawyer? That's an important question. My wife is going to be hiring somebody, and name the lawyer.
So you
what's your
should ask
question?
your lawyer whether or not they're familiar with your spouse's lawyer.
Absolutely.
Because familiarity can fuel some
Sure.
fires as well.
Absolutely. If you've got a nice relationship with the adversary, it's one thing. If you've had a complete, warlike relationship with him, it may also send you on a different course. And sometimes you will see cases where it's the lawyers who are fighting more than the litigants. And sometimes you'll see litigants sitting out in the hallway talking because the lawyers are fighting too much inside.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem. But you also have to have a client who understands that here's how a judge is going to divide assets. Here's what the judge is going to do in terms of alimony and child support. And if the client isn't willing to listen, then you're wasting the lawyer's time.
Do clients listen?
Most of the time they do. As long as you're firm, you're direct, and you explain why.
Steve, when you were getting your first divorce, did you listen?
I listened, but when you go through the situations that Mr. Diamond is talking about, when you get a phone call from your soon-to-be ex-wife about the children, and you get angry, then you go and you call the lawyer up, and he says, "Don't worry, this will happen." You don't want to listen, but you should. You really should listen. Yes, you should. But it's very easy to sit here now. What I'm saying
it's
is,
13 years later.
If you asked me that 24 hours ago, I probably would have said no. I didn't want to listen. But you should listen. Yes, you definitely should.
Had you listened, do you think your divorce woes and the War of the Roses that you experienced would have been mitigated?
You know what the thing with me, I always said to my lawyer, why don't we just get her together in the room with her attorney. Let's try to settle this. Why does it have to wait 6, 8, 12 months? And I never get an answer.
Did you have millions of dollars of assets to split up? Is that why it took so long?
No, not at all.
You didn't?
Not at all.
You
Not at all.
were an employee of a company?
Yes, yes.
And
in fact, my job has outlasted my both marriages.
You're more loyal to your job.
Exactly.
Terrific. How's the effects on children of a divorce? What's your experience?
It depends upon really the parents. I've lectured to the New Jersey Psychological Association on their role in contested custody matters.
You wrote an article on grandparent visitation.
Correct.
Should grandparents have the right to visit with their children?
It depends upon the situation.
Yeah.
I hate to use that term, but there are some situations where a parent is going to view the relationship with the grandparent as adversarial. There's bad blood. It's not constructive for the benefit of the children. But children really are going to react to how the parents are handling the divorce and how they handle the relationship between themselves.
Does the law provide for grandparent visitation?
Yes, in certain circumstances it does. And it can be healthy, but the problem is that where there's such bad blood and it's clear that the grandparents want a relationship with the children and it's going to impact on mom or dad, you got more problems.
My parents don't even, after all these years, they still have a hard time calling to talk to my children, even on birthdays or holidays. They just don't like dialing the number. Because she gets
you're
on the phone and everything that's gone through, and it's tough. And I could be down there on vacation with my children, and she'll call, and my mom will talk to her for a few minutes. I'm like, hang up the phone. Remember when the tide is turning when you call that you don't get to go through. It's hard. No, I disagree.
So it's still stressful 13 years later.
Oh yes, even at a bar mitzvah, it was stressful. Yes, I definitely disagree with you.
So what's your advice? How to resolve this stress among grandparents and former in-laws, among children of divorced parents?
I think at the beginning of a divorce, the parents, and I'm saying both the men and the women, have to realize, it took me 4, 5, 6 years to realize that the children were the important issues here. That's what they have, and they don't realize that. They tend to let the lawyers get ahead and then pump them up, and you're going to get this, and you're going to do that. But down the road, when these children are 20, 21, 22 years old, I said to myself, this was my line, I don't want these kids to say, Dad, where were you when we needed you? And that's why I've raised my children.
And you've been visiting your children frequently since you've been divorced?
I have joint custody, and I see them 3 to 4 times a week.
Joint custody, which means what? They live with you sometimes and live with your wife sometimes?
Which means when I don't send the check, I get a phone call that I'm terrible. And when my time comes up, I get to see him. But yeah, I get to see him. We make decisions partially together. I don't agree with this joint custody issue. I really don't, because I can call up on the phone and want to talk to them or go to their school, and it's still a problem. Yeah, I don't agree. I disagree with the joint custody.
Are prenuptials any solution to the trauma caused by a divorce?
In the issue that Steve is discussing, no, because it's not going to have any effect.
So prenuptial won't have any effect on custody issues?
No. But you can't address the children's issues in a prenuptial agreement, not with any validity. But what I think what Steve is talking about is joint custody arrangement. There's 2 types of joint custody. One is what you were asking about, joint physical custody,
right.
And then there's the other type, which is joint legal. And the problem with joint legal is if mom has custody of the children where they're primarily living with her, and Steve calls her up and says, I disagree with the decision, she hangs up the phone,
right.
Well, unless he's ready to take her back to court, nothing was accomplished.
Or send her another check.
Right. Or else
We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back talking about divorce, how to choose a divorce lawyer with Richard Diamond and Steve Decoveney. Thanks.
He works for you. He's got a problem. A drug problem. You've got bigger problems, you say. You've got to worry about your bottom line. Fact is, he's more likely to file workers' comp claims and a lot more likely to miss work. And drug users like him suck millions upon millions from companies like yours every day. To find out how to help your employees and save your company money,
This is the QVC Local, And if you make a great product that you've been selling around your state, it could really change your life. No, it can't make deliveries for you or take your associates out for a night on the town, but it can broadcast your product live to QVC's millions of buyers during the 1997 Quest for America's Best, QVC's 50 and 50 tour. Call 1-888-5050-USA to see if your product is eligible for the Quest. And when the QVC local comes to town, your small business could very well become big business.
Hi, this is Sam Rosenfarb. You're watching It's All About Money. We're talking about divorce with Richard Diamond and Steve Decoveney. Richard, you're a noted matrimonial attorney in the state. How'd you get involved in matrimonial law, divorce law?
I took a wrong turn and just kept going. My father was a divorce lawyer, and somehow I fell into it and just continued with it. And if I have to practice law, it's the one area that I'm comfortable with.
So when you were growing up at home, he got phone calls from clients at home yelling about kids and about ex-wives, and you thought that was...
I was going to be a stockbroker back then.
Right.
Somehow I changed direction.
Divorce law, what's your client mix? Is it mostly husbands, mostly wives?
My client base stays 50% men, 50% women year in, year out. Doesn't change. It's probably because I try very hard to tell people what I think a judge is going to do, as opposed to simply listening to what they want, to hear in a consultation.
And do you find that successful with your clients? They want to know what's going to happen.
Sure. I think that clients want to know what the bottom line is. Tell me where I'm going to be if I'm getting a divorce. And I think it also can help keep costs down. People say, where am I going to be? And if I fight and spend an extra $30,000, am I going to be in the same position? And if I say the answer is yes, this makes sense, this is reasonable.
What are some of the most troublesome, tricky areas of divorce?
Where you get into disagreements are where you have people who have a lot of money and you're talking about lifestyle as for alimony. You have a situation where it's even a short-term marriage and it's a 6-7 year marriage and the wife isn't working, she's at home with 2 children.
Right.
And husband says, I don't want to pay her alimony. And you've got 2 children at home, their ages 3 and 4. And you're going to tell this guy, his wife hasn't worked, you're going to pay.
Yeah. Well, I guess during the marriage, he controlled the purse strings, right? He controlled how much money she got. And now that he's getting divorced,
once they get
and then it
divorced,
changes,
right?
right? Is that what you
It
found,
changes.
Steve? You know,
Mine, yours, right, exactly.
right. While you're married, it's all yours. You control
I
it.
had some money that I had from when I was a baby, and suddenly it became hers. And I remember reading things that she put in the papers that she knew more things that I had than I knew what I had.
And she got her share of it.
Oh, she wanted it, yes.
And you still have financial obligations to her now as for child support, right? Because your children are still living with her.
She's like a zero coupon bond. This is not going away. It hasn't matured yet.
So this continues.
Yes. Oh, it does.
So you have financial obligations. So when you're dating now, you're looking for somebody to be able to provide some financial support.
I hear Marla Maples is available. I'm jumping and going to see her.
Does that play a role? Having
It plays a
in
role
your
with
dating?
anything. Sure, even when you meet a woman, you got to tell her the situation because you can't go out to the restaurants that you want to go out to or that they're accustomed to going out to.
Because of your obligations
Sure,
and your divorce.
yeah, that's right. And I live my life through guilt, and I just want to take care of these children, and I'd rather eat hamburgers or puff wheat and take care of my children.
Do the children recognize that?
They do now, yes, they do. They definitely do.
They do.
But they do have, and like we were talking before the break, when you go to a baseball game and the mother is there and the grandparents are there, and it's hard to even sit on the same side. For 3 years, I would sit on the visiting side of the field because I didn't want to, impose if it wasn't my weekend and I showed up at a game.
Because it was inconvenient or
right, because
uncomfortable.
I felt that I didn't feel like I should have to call my ex-wife to say I'm coming to watch my son play ball today. So I would just stay to the other side.
We don't know enough yet, I guess, in this country about how to deal with these extended families and how to deal with visiting your children.
Right, like I said
game.
before the show, once they get divorced, it's not over. It's the beginning of a new relationship with this person again.
It's a new life.
Sure.
Because
one of the things that I try to do, following up on Steve's comments, build into agreements mediation provisions. Where you have a provision that says they're going to agree to a specific mental health professional, someone else, third party, to deal specifically with parenting issues.
Subsequent to the divorce.
Subsequent to the divorce. Build it right into an agreement that in the event they have a fight and they can't agree, instead of going to the lawyers, go to somebody else who they trust, who they can talk to try to work through the issue.
That sounds
instead
like
of
an
having
excellent
it deteriorate.
Like a rabbi or a priest?
Whomever.
or some health care professional.
Sure.
Either a therapist or some
Somebody who
organization?
Somebody who they trust, who they have confidence in, that they can sit and talk and say, he did this, she did that, and try to work through it so they don't end up back in a divorce court.
We did that once. That worked out real well.
It did?
Yeah, we lasted about 5 minutes.
Okay. It may not work for everybody.
It lasted about 5 minutes because what happened? What was the result?
She told her side, and I told my side. And if he started to agree with her, she got mad. If he agreed with me,
Yeah,
it went both ways.
But then you need somebody who's really qualified, and that's where you run into problems with mediators.
You're a certified mediator.
Correct.
Right.
And I have some real problems with those people who claim to be mediators.
Because is mediation a panacea? Would mediation solve a lot of these problems in divorce?
Some problems, because the biggest complaint about divorce is you got two lawyers in an adversarial relationship bumping heads, and people think that if you got one person, it'll be better. It depends upon the mediator. That mediator has to take control, has to talk to both husband and wife, and they have to listen, and they both have to be willing to settle, and they have to take advice. If they're not willing to do it, he's wasting his time, they're wasting their money.
And there's no obligation for either one of them to follow advice of a mediator.
And also they have to be truthful and honest and provide the necessary information. The other problem you have with mediation, though, is you want to walk out of the studio today and hang up a sign saying you're a divorce mediator. Guess what? You can do it.
There's no requisites, no requirements, no degrees?
Not at all. Anybody can hang up a
So
shingle.
I'm qualified.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well,
You can
Steve
do a
is
couple divorces
ultimately
and you can be
qualified.
qualified.
I'm ready to go.
And that's a problem, because too many people say that they're a divorce mediator, and they really aren't qualified to do it, and there's no one stopping them.
There's no law in the state which regulates divorce mediators?
No. Anybody wants to hang up a shingle can hang up a shingle, they can do it, and probably 85% of those people who are doing it shouldn't be touching it because they don't have the necessary foundation skills. They don't know anything as to what a judge would do. They don't know tax issues. They don't know what the law is. And in the advice they're giving them, what's their foundation? It feels good.
Feels good.
It feels
and
good.
therefore it
This
should be
smells right.
Would you have used mediation if somebody broached you with that availability?
I probably would have taken any kind of help that I could get because I just felt like I was running into a brick wall. It just seemed like it never ended.
And do you think your ex-wife would have taken advice?
No, my ex-wife was looking for blood. She wasn't looking at the best interest.
If she was sitting here, what do you think she'd say? Would she say my ex-husband was looking for blood? I would have gone to a mediator.
I just wanted the case to end. I just wanted us to go on with our lives. That was it.
And she wanted.
I can remember times bringing presents over on my children's birthday, and she would open the door and slam the door in my face. I couldn't even see my kids on their birthday.
I'm going to guess that they're not going to be good candidates for mediation.
Right.
And sometimes you have people who clearly can't mediate a matter, and they're going to need a judge.
Well, sometimes there's different perspectives. I've been involved in some divorce cases where husband goes to his lawyer and says, you know, I want a divorce, and I think $200 a week in alimony makes sense and is fair. And the wife meets with her lawyer, and she says, you know, I want a divorce, and I think $200 a week alimony sounds fair. That's what I deserve. That's what would help me along. And both the husband and wife agree. And then the first time the two lawyers meet, the husband's lawyer says, oh, we think we could pay about $50 a week. And the wife's lawyer says, well, we think we want $500 a week. And now they got this huge disparity, and that fuels the fires. Is that real life?
It probably is, to a great degree, real life, except if somebody's really a matrimonial lawyer whose practice is limited to matrimonial law, he knows pretty much so, within a 5% range, what the number should be or what a judge is going to do. And if you say to the two lawyers, tell me bottom line, if we go before a judge, what's the number? What's the judge going to pick? It's going to be 50 or is it going to be 500? Give me the bottom line numbers. And that's when you're going to get the lawyers to talk honestly. Or the litigant should be saying to the lawyers, tell me realistically where I'm going to end up.
But there is human nature in negotiating to not open with your best offer, but to open with a low offer.
Well, actually, I think a better matrimonial lawyer says, here's my bottom line.
Here's my best offer.
Here's my bottom line. I don't play games. And I know enough matrimonial lawyers out there that say, this is my view. This is where I stand. And they're going to come within parameters of reasonableness. Because once you're outside the parameters of reasonableness, you know what? You're wasting your time talking to that lawyer.
Is that what drags out the cases sometimes?
Wasting the time.
I mean, isn't it like you're saying, it's a numbers game. You make X amount of dollars, she makes X amount of dollars. Why does the cases then drag out 2 years, 3 years?
Sometimes it's the lawyers.
It's greedy.
Sometimes the lawyers.
Some cases are 4 or 5 years old, right?
Depending upon the county. Some cases you have the lawyers who are playing games, and they're playing games with each other. They're playing games with the litigants.
What kind of games do they play? What?
Oh, biggest issue in the world is discovery. Discovery is turning over financial information. Somebody's got financial records. The other side asks, well, let's see the records to verify the information.
Right.
And the records aren't being turned over. Well, once you do that, you're starting a war, because now the wife is angry, my husband won't turn over the records.
What kind of records? Tax returns, invoices, state brokerage statements?
Yes.
Business records?
Yes.
Yeah.
Depends upon the particular
I had a
individual.
job and a 2-bedroom apartment and a car. And I never gave up so much information. I thought I was playing for the Yankees. It was amazing how much information.
Her lawyer kept asking you for information
And
through this
my
discovery
lawyer,
process.
it kept going on. I told him, this is how much I made this year. How many times?
But sometimes that's where a lawyer is abusing the process, because if you've got a W-2 employee, you pretty much don't know where he stands. You're not dealing with a guy with cash. So why are we wasting time on a lot of nonsense
Are there
stuff?
differences in various counties between Essex, Passaic, Somerset? Does it make a difference? In terms of the time it takes to get divorced?
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of the judges
Sure.
caring about divorce litigants?
Two things. One, each county is going to be different in terms of time. Union County, you're going to move at about 12 months. Somerset County, because you've got 2 judges and they're completely overwhelmed with the caseload, could be 3.5 years. And it's not fair, but they don't have control over that.
What are the choices as to which counties the
Depends
people
upon where the
follow?
parties reside in.
It's only where they live, not where they work or where they have a
Correct.
second home. What if they have a second home? Do they get to
where they reside. So sometimes I've seen cases where people have moved from one county to the other, specifically for purposes of getting a different judge or a different county to handle
And what if
this.
they separate? What if one partner moves out and the husband moves out, now lives in Essex County because he wants an Essex judge? Can he do that?
Sure.
So there is creative
But
planning.
that probably drags out more time.
You run into issues, and I don't really think you're going to have much issue between parties as to which county they're in. It may be that they want to be before a particular judge, but it happens very rarely that you run into those type of issues.
Would it make sense if a husband was concerned that his wife would use you as a divorce lawyer?
Okay.
Would it make sense for him to consult with you to prevent his wife?
Happens every day.
It does.
Happens every day, and there are people who will meet with 5, 6, 8, 10 lawyers, and somebody else will scream that he's doing it only to knock out a bunch of lawyers. And that's part of
So
doing
whoever
business.
anybody meets with is now precluded from representing their
Right.
spouse.
I had that happen.
You had.
My second case.
What happened? That's the story.
I went to this attorney, and I really wasn't that impressed with him because I felt like I knew more than he did. And it was once they tell me they want to play hardball, that's when I know it's trouble. So then I was taking my kids to Florida, we were driving down, and I called this lawyer.
So your second wife, you also had hardball issues there too.
Very hardball,
Okay.
curveballs. And I just before I left for Florida, I called her on the phone. And we came back from Florida, and I called her right back. She goes, "Didn't you call me 2 weeks ago?" I says, "Yes." She goes, "Well, your ex-wife just called me yesterday. It's a good thing I spoke to you already." And I never really spoke to her. I
So
spoke to
now
the
your
secretary.
ex-wife can't use her anymore.
Right, exactly.
But in this
Right,
case,
it
you would
wouldn't
have
make much of a difference
wanted your
anyways.
ex-wife to use it because she didn't know anything. Well,
No,
although
right.
perhaps the way you described it, it's better if your divorce lawyers, your spouse's divorce lawyer knows what they're doing. Right? It's better for your
Absolutely.
case as well.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
what I'm hearing from Mr. Diamond, already sitting here for 20 minutes, I already feel that I'm more learned than what I did when I went for the first time. I wasn't told this is the issues and that's it. It was very, I should say, dynasty-like or Dallas-like.
If you're getting a divorce and you care about money, follow the advice you've heard tonight. It's all about money. If you have any questions about it, call me, Sam Rosenfarb. Write to me or call me, Sam Rosenfarb, 75 Livingston Avenue, Roseland, New Jersey, 07068 973 535 1300. Keep your priorities straight. It's all about money.